Welcome, everybody, to a new, fresh edition of the Durham Bulls Podcast, where Bulls fans know to go every Monday for the stories, the legends, the players, and the celebrity that makes Durham Bulls baseball what it is nationwide. I'm Patrick Keenis, broadcaster for the Bulls. If it's your first time joining the pod, we thank you. You can subscribe and never miss an episode that drops on YouTube, our Durham Bulls TV channel, and on Apple and Spotify for the audio version. Well, we've had some incredible guests over the first 5 or 6 months of this podcast, from Hall of Fame manager Charlie Montoyo to Ryan Stanek and Miles Masterboni and Jim Morris, the rookie, was on a few weeks ago. And now we go into the Durham Bulls clubhouse with a guy who has just completely endeared himself to Bulls fans 3 months into his first year with the Tampa Bay Rays. And it's my pleasure to bring on a guy who I just met a few months ago, but consider a good friend now, in Durham Bulls catcher Rob Brantly. Rob, first off, welcome to the show. Welcome to the pod. How are you doing?
Oh, man, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. If my complexion is a little red right now, it's only because we just made about a half hour bloopers trying to get this podcast started. So I'm happy that we're off and underway.
We're off and rolling here. And first off, you've been with what, 12 different organizations over your career. You played for 15 years. You've kind of lived the life of Bull Durham, just with your entire experiences weaved since you were drafted out of UC Riverside. Have you seen the movie, and what has your career experience, your career journey been like when you kind of juxtapose that with Bull Durham?
Oh my gosh. I mean, first of all, Bull Durham is without a doubt my favorite baseball movie that I've ever watched. I've always kind of connected with that movie just because it is very much focused on, like, a veteran catcher in Crash Davis, and just kind of like his love for baseball, really. I know it might seem rather, as he says, dubious, as he quotes it in the movie. But I love that movie so much because you see the push and the pull that players have, like when playing, and when push comes to shove, like when things get really hard, like when he first comes to the A-ball team in Durham, he says, "I quit," and then he walks out of the room, and both coaches are just sitting there waiting, and you see him turn around and he goes, "What time's practice tomorrow?" I mean, really, in essence, like that sums up a lot, right? It's like the game just kind of pulls us in, and it's something that's very near and dear to our hearts as baseball players. We're very connected to this game, and it's chock full of emotion, both the good and the bad, and that's a part of what makes this sport so amazing. So yeah, I connect to that movie a lot, just because I do respect the player trying to finish the season, as they say at the end of that movie. It's just, it never leaves them. Baseball's with you forever. It's in your heart. So yeah.
So, I mean, there is a lot of Bull Durham DNA coursing through the veins of Rob Brantly. Now that I make that kind of comparison, what we know what kept Crash Davis motivated in the movie. What keeps you motivated now as a almost 35-year-old catcher who broke into the big leagues when he was 22 and has been kind of waiting for a couple more opportunities as your career has gone forward? What is the driving force for you?
From a personal perspective, a big part of what this journey is, like, of course, there is the, ultimate, like, result goal of getting to the big leagues, competing in the big leagues, staying in the big leagues. But that is like the result part of it. I think what keeps me going is, like, I'm very driven to see how much I can get out of myself, right? Like the drive here is to see what kind of player can I develop myself into? What is like the best possible, catcher or player or teammate that I can be in this, short window of an opportunity that we have as baseball players. So every year I get, and now that, like, shoot, I'm on year 15, you see the window's definitely not as big as it used to be. It's I'm trying to get the most out of it every day. Seeing if I can learn something new that's going to make me better, learn something new that like maybe one day I can pass on to athletes, down the road. But yeah, it's really just kind of like this unrelenting motivation to get the very best out of myself.
How do you measure that? Is it something you do on a daily basis? Do you try to learn something new once a day, once a week? I mean, what is the measure by which that you kind of determine um, kind of continuing the journey that you're on, that you make sure that you continue to utilize the time that you have right now while you're playing?
I think the more in which like the more time which you develop, you start to learn, like especially when you're training like physically, like trying to learn new things like physically or mechanically. Um, it's hard because in a way to learn something new, you kind of have to abandon for a while something that you've had. And it's hard for people to just kind of abandon something that say like has been working for them for a certain amount of time and it's just not working anymore, you know? So the more comfortable I got in that, I call it like this growth phase where you kind of spend this time in like a space that you're not familiar with. It's uncomfortable. Like I'm trying a new
Mhm.
load, or I'm trying something different with my hands or with my body, or the way I'm sighting in on pitches, or a new approach to a certain pitch type. Like you don't know what the result's going to be. You don't know how your body's going to respond, and that's
Mhm.
scary to a lot of players. But like I've really come to embrace that space, and I think it's really paid dividends in the long run as far as my growth goes as an athlete.
As I was kind of evaluating the Durham Bulls, and I have a unique perspective to kind of watch how you all operate and see how you handle the day to day, off the field, on the field, in the clubhouse, 3 hours before games, working on things. I don't know that you have a special relationship with Erasmo Ramirez, but I'm guessing you might, only because you're kind of in the same, you're kind of rowing the same boat, right? I mean, you've been playing for so long, you've been in so many organizations, you've had so much major league success, and you're here with the Durham Bulls trying to get up and help the Tampa Bay Rays or any big league team while you're working on your craft and also educating the younger players who were you when you were 22 breaking into big league baseball, and were Erasmo when he broke into big league baseball when he was 20, 22, or 23 years of age. It takes a very unselfish player to be able to handle those roles. So I guess first off, do you feel some type of kinship with Erasmo? Do you talk much about it, or is it just kind of understood?
I think it's more of respect, right? You respect everything that he's been through. You respect the success that he's accumulated. You respect the work that he puts in and day out. And it's right there for everyone to see. I think Erasmo, first and foremost, is a leader by example. And I think that helps out with a lot of the younger players. I watch him go out, be one of the first ones onto the field every day to get his conditioning in, because he knows how important that is for him as a pitcher. And he's always coming in just with that sweat equity, that he's paid all down his shirt, ready to go. And I think it motivates a lot of the younger players there when they see a guy that's done it for that long, putting in that kind of work, especially in the heart of summer in Durham.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is the level at which I need to get on if I want to be a big leaguer.
And you both do it with a smile. I mean, you both do it with a real pleasant, focused, determined, but calm disposition. And you look like you both are really, as much of a grind as it is, as hard as it is, as disappointed as the game can be sometimes. You look like you're enjoying it as much as you can, even though you've been doing it now for 12, 13, 14, 15 years.
Yeah, I think I don't want to call it like a comfort level, because I think a part of what keeps us going, right, is I talked about like we've kind of embraced that
Mhm.
environment of chaos, or of the unknown, of not being comfortable. And I think that we both have a pretty good understanding of the things which we can control in our process, just to give us the best opportunity to get back up to the big leagues and to help out a big league club, or to just put our best performance out for that day in Durham. I think both of us share the mindset that, like, even though you're a Durham Bull, or you might be Montgomery Biscuit, or regardless of what level you're at, and I'm willing to bet if you put Erasmo in any level, he is going to go out there and he is going to put on a big league performance every single day, because in his mind and his heart, he's a big leaguer. And I think that's probably the most important thing, is you actually get to control the mindset that you have. When I go onto the field, there's no doubt in my mind that I am a big leaguer on that field today. So it's like, okay, like, I'm a big leaguer, like, whether it be in AAA, like, this is going to be a big league outing.
So you brought up the big leagues, and the manager who sent you to the big leagues for the first time in your life was a manager I had several years ago, Ron Hassey. Ron Hassey was the manager of the Carolina Mudcats when they were a Marlins AA affiliate back in the early 2000s, and absolutely loved the man. He didn't get around all that quickly with the knees and the hip issues he had, but I learned so much in my one summer with him. Can you take me to the moment when he called you into the office in New Orleans and changed your life?
You want to talk about a calm presence and a leadership presence. Ron, I enjoyed my time with Ron Hassey, like, immensely. Try and model some behavioral traits from him, definitely going forward after those seasons. I was 21 years old. I'll be 35 here in a little bit over a week. But I remember I was in the gym, and I was prepping for the game. I was getting loose and I was on the lineup card. And he walked by the gym and he told me I was scratched from the game. And I remember, like, that being, like, so unordinary that I thought I was in trouble, because he just, like, walked by in, like, his, like, stoic voice and told me I was scratched. And, like, scratched from the game, you just think you're in trouble. I'd just been traded, and I was still in my second full season of being a professional baseball player. I just, gotten started. And I remember when he told me I was going to the big leagues, and just kind of like this feeling, it's like you don't know how to react at first. But I remember shaking his hand, and I remember, like, first and foremost, just wanting to call my dad, like, immediately. But yeah, that was a pretty special day for me, and I'll never forget it.
And it was before the days of social media, really, as we know them now. So it wasn't, a manager trying to stick a iPhone in the corner and try and capture the reaction in the moment so it can go viral and people can experience. For me, there's import in that. It's cool to see, I'm sure, for the fans, about the initial reactions, but there's something intimate. There's something really special and baseball romantic about being called into a dusty, dingy manager's office 20 years ago, 15 years ago, being told that your lifelong dream since you were 4 or 5 years old has just been realized.
Oh man, to circle it back to Bull Durham, you talk about the Church of Baseball. The clubhouse is sacred. Even though we're in the era of social media, like, there's so much that goes on in a locker room with experiences and relationships that you develop, that that it's yours and it is sacred. And getting a chance to share those moments, though, in this informational era that we have now, I hope that it kind of helps foster young dreams of getting to go to the big leagues, to see that for a lot of people, like, like, if it's attainable for them, it's attainable for you. But yeah, definitely, like, two-sided there, when it is kind of like this moment, right? This intimate, very kind of like personal moment, like that will be my moment forever, and I'll never forget it.
Do you wish that it had been memorialized in some type of video, or is it enough for you that you can play that at any time in your head?
Oh, without a doubt, it is enough to play that in my head. It's an opportunity that a lot of baseball players, strive for, and yeah, I'm very, very appreciative of that moment, and that was enough for sure.
All right. So I was going to get into this a little bit later, but since we've kind of broken the seal and broached the issue, so your first major league game, I did some digging on that, and I'm always curious about the first at bat and the situation, but the first major league game in which you played was extraordinarily unusual. Just looking through the box score, seeing what happened, it was a 1-0 game with the Marlins taking on the Phillies. The second pitch of the game was hit for a home run by Jimmy Rollins, and that was the only run of the game. What
Josh Johnson on the mound.
Josh Johnson, a friend of mine, he played with the Mudcats back in 05, a great pitcher. What do you remember about that day? And what did you call that second pitch?
Yeah, so Josh, man, what an awesome guy to have as the first pitcher that I get to work with. He was great, man. I could put down any pitch I wanted. He was going to throw it to the exact spot with intensity, and he was really great to have as my first pitcher to catch in the big leagues. And then I'll never forget that second pitch flying over the wall, because I remember looking over, and Loria, the owner, used to sit right next to the dugout, like literally right next to the dugout. And I looked over, and like, man, are they gonna send me down? Like, did I call the wrong pitch there? Second pitch of the game, I'm like, but like as a young kid, your first time in the big leagues, everything is to you under like the most intense microscope, but that was the only run of the game. Josh pitched an excellent game. I think Kyle Kendrick was the pitcher for the opposing team.
That's right.
I'll never forget my first at bat. I struck out looking, actually, but I swung at the first two pitches. And I remember being in the batter's box being like, I am definitely not getting cheated here. Like, I'm going to make this first at bat worth it and try and hit this ball in the upper deck. And I swung through the first two pitches. I took the last pitch for strike three. Eduardo Perez was my hitting coach. And I remember going back to him and asking him, I'm like, dang, man, like how does he not give me any fastballs for my first professional at bat? And he looks at me funny, and then he slaps me on the forehead and he goes, those were all 93 miles an hour, Rob. You need to slow down.
A little amped up.
I was so amped up. I rewatched it. I'm like, sure enough, those were all fastballs. Yeah. I was swinging as soon as it came out of his hand.
What was it like walking into the stadium the very first day and seeing your jersey hanging up with your name on the back?
Oh man, I got there so early.
Of course it did.
Way earlier than I was supposed to be there. I remember our video guy at the time had barely woken up from they must have had like a late trip before. He was the only one at the stadium, like trying to put together probably the starting pitcher facing video, get everything set up. But he was the only one there. He goes, what are you doing here so early? I don't even think the jerseys were hung up yet. I was just so excited to be there. I used to get to the field so early when I got called up that Heath Bell took me out to a Cabela's, and he goes, we need to find you a hobby. And so he bought me this really nice compound bow, got me all kitted out with it. And then we would go every stadium we went to, we'd find an archery to go to, and we'd shoot before the games. So I wouldn't show up to the field so early.
That's really funny, because I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but several years ago in Durham, there was a player for the Bulls who would go out and shoot fake targets in the outfield at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You just put up a target, stand it up, and take his bow and snap it off. And the name will come to me on who that was, but that's the only time I've ever seen it happen. So is that still a hobby of yours, or have you evolved into something else?
I don't shoot as frequently, but it is something I enjoy doing. I've even kind of evolved to where like I don't even shoot compound bows so much as I like the traditional bows. I have a Hoyt recurve bow, at home that I like to take out and shoot sometimes when I get the opportunity. And it really is. It's just like this kind of like therapeutic process of like deep, very fine, calm focus. And it's, I like it.
Well,
It's stuck.
you're a father of 3, so you don't have much time on your own to enjoy and grow hobbies. So what I guess my first question on being a father of young kids in this game and traveling and is intense work, how do you manage it? It's not easy.
Oh, I have an all-star wife who is incredible. She does this magnificent job of keeping our family together no matter where baseball takes us. And baseball has taken us a lot of different places. So that part has been huge in managing this. She's like stepped up so big there and made this really made this a possibility for our family to keep doing for many, many years. So any chance I get, before the game, to go there, spend time with my kids, make breakfast with them. Sometimes you'll see me take Bryson and Layla, my 2 oldest kids, to the ballpark before, get out into the grass and play some baseball, soccer, and then I get to, go about my day after that.
And what fans may not know is your 3rd child, Bennett, was born a couple of days before Christmas. I mean, 6 months old right now.
Yes, 6 months old, Big Ben. We hit the hard reset button 5 years after Bryson, so there's a 5-year gap there, and we're over the moon about it. We love Benny, and he seems to just be on hyperspeed as far as growth goes. He's already out of the newborn phase and doing different things, and I can see he's getting ready to crawl. And I know once they're mobile, it's a whole different ball game, right?
Yep.
Like, so we're bracing for that and getting ready for that. And honestly, it's just been amazing to watch Layla and Bryson with him and how much they love him and want to take care of him.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. So Cade is our 2.5-year-old, and once he started crawling at about a little over 6 months, it was as if he started running the next week. I mean, it was, and he's our only child, so it was phenomenal for us to witness how fast that transition took place.
And they never run into like safety, it's always the opposite. It's like, what's the most dangerous thing that I could possibly run to? Oh, set of stairs. Never done these before. Let's see if I can run down these things. Oh, there's an outlet over there. Let me go try and stick my finger in there. I'm like, it's like they're hardwired. I'm like, come on.
How did you meet your wife?
Oh man. So we were both from the same hometown. Her dad was actually my T-ball coach. Yeah, we're from the same town in Southern California, Temecula, California. Beautiful wine country town. But her brother and I played on the same T-ball team, and her dad was one of the coaches for those teams. It was a kind of a smaller town. Her best friend was actually my cousin Lauren that lived down the street from me. But we were 3 letter grades apart, like where she was a senior, I was a freshman. But she was super smart, and I got held back in the 1st grade. And so we're only a year and a half apart in age. Yeah. My dad swears it was because he wanted me to be 18 years old in my senior year for baseball and colleges and the draft. But I remember myself as a student in elementary school. I'm like, yeah, teacher probably recommended that one.
So when did that move into a relationship? So you're growing up, her, she's in your neighborhood, she's in your school. When did things change?
So she was always my cousin's really pretty friend, and they were 3 letter grades apart. So there was this sort of grade gap. But yeah, so fast forward, I'm playing professional baseball. I'm playing for the Miami Marlins, and the St. Louis Cardinals come into town, and Alan Craig is married to my wife's other best friend. They were kind of in that little social group in high school.
Because Alan went to your high school, right?
Alan Craig went to my high school and married his high school sweetheart. and just so happened to be in that friends group with my wife and my cousin Lauren. So my cousin Lauren wanted to come out and visit, and visit her friend Marie, see me play Major League Baseball for the first time, and I'm like, that's a great idea. Do you know what else would be a great idea?
Oh no.
Maybe you invite your friend out to come so all three of you guys can, hang out. And then, I could show her that I'm not this little kid anymore.
So let me pause you there. You've been pining for her for years and years and years, and your recommendation was to have your cousin bring her to the game so you could connect with her? Am I hearing this right?
Yeah, so it's like
This is awesome.
I mean, shoot, a lot of time has passed in between, high school and then. It's just kind of one of those things where like the timing was right. So, I was like, hey, maybe she wants to see her friend too. She hasn't seen her. Maybe it'd be fun for your whole group to kind of come out here and hang out.
I mean, that's the best part of the story, is the fact that like so many years had gone by, but something's festering inside of you for years and years that maybe there might be a chance. Did she have any idea? Did you ever ask her out when you were a teenager? Or is this brand new breaking news for her?
This would be very, very breaking news. Like, I mean, not even, I would say like not even, because she came out once for that trip. And then it was like a couple months down the road that she came out again with her cousin Lauren, or with my cousin Lauren, because they had fun like hanging out. Like I didn't even like so much like make a move that first time. It was just more of just like letting her know that like I existed more than just like this like little kid and that was like a freshman at her school.
I mean, this is unbelievable. So
yeah, pretty crazy story when you think about it.
Yeah,
just kind of like my like intricate little plan.
I love it. So first date was what? And when? Because you're in the middle of the season. Once you finally kind of reveal this huge years-long quiet crush.
So yeah, so she came out the first time to like visit her friend, right? And like, I mean, it's really what it was for her. When she came out, she thought she was going to have this like cool like little Miami experience. Go see her friend Marie playing against her friend's cousin and her friend's husband, her other friend's husband. I got a chance to hang out with them as a group, and she just got to know like me a little bit as a person, like really platonic, in its beginning there. And it wasn't until like a month down the road that like we continued to talk on, like, I'm going to date myself here because FaceTime really wasn't a thing. It was Skype.
Right. Yeah, I'm
We're
with
talking
you.
about social media back in the day, and I was like, yeah, back when I got called up, I think we just had MySpace or something like that.
I was on dial-up on Prodigy.
Yeah, so like it was like platonic, but like of course like I was like interested. But yeah, we got to talking in the time between when she came the first time to the time when she came the second time is when things really started to pick up, and let her know that like, hey, I'm actually like really interested in making this a real thing. And the rest is history from there.
And you dated for how long? And then when did you guys get engaged? Was it a short period of time?
I would say a relatively short period of time. So yeah, we started dating kind of like right at the end of that season. And then I was engaged at the end of spring training the next year.
Oh my gosh, that is fast.
I would say, when I say things picked up speed, pretty fast.
Oh, what an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Hopefully the fans will enjoy that as well. So let's talk about your family, because I've read some pieces, I've seen some videos on your dad, your mom, your sisters, how special they are and how impactful they have been in your baseball voyage. Let's talk about your mom first, because there are plenty of stories out there about your dad. We'll get into him in a second, but you talk about your wife being the rock of the family. I'm guessing your mom, with your dad working in the U.S. Air Force for almost 40 years. I'm guessing your mom was the rock, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my dad would have to leave on deployment sometimes for 9 months or more. Yeah, we have multiple videos of him coming home after those long trips. And yeah, I don't know how my mom handled that, especially like handled me as the middle crazy child. I definitely gave her a run for her money in that department for sure. And in a lot of ways, she's been a rock in that regard where, my dad would leave and, like it would just be my mom and three kids and one of them not making it so easy. But no, my mother is incredible and I can't thank her enough for the incredible sacrifices that she's made just to, give me the opportunities I've had. So she stepped up to
Mhm.
the plate in a big way.
As close as you were and are with your dad, and as much as he was gone on his deployments over 37 years in the U.S. Air Force, what parallels do you draw that Rob Brantly Jr. with the Durham Bulls is away from family for so long and so many periods of time, with your three kids? Maybe not necessarily right in your apartment or right in your house 12 months a year.
I can't say parallels. To me, my dad is a cut above.
Mm.
You know what I mean? He's my hero. He's my role model. Again, talk about sacrifices that parents make with that time away, but in doing so has opened up opportunities for me and my sisters, to chase our dreams and opportunities to build our families now that we're all grown up. Um, yeah, I will do the very best I can to try and emulate, all the wonderful things that he's done for us and in his sacrifices. But yeah, I don't think I could
Mhm.
ever match, what my dad has kind of created for me in my childhood, my mom and
Yeah.
my dad, what they've done for us. So I think I'll constantly be chasing that pedestal, but
Mm.
hopefully in some way be half as good.
Your dad, from what I read, Master Sergeant, 37 years in the U.S. Air Force. Um, where all was he deployed? What are the, when you think of the sacrifices your dad made for family, for career, for our country, what are those?
Um, You talk okay, sacrifices for, country, you talk about his deployments, you talk about working like long nights. Sometimes they have to go through training phases where they work through the night and have to be able to operate right on very little sleep. My dad worked in the ammunitions department, so having that kind of attention to detail, right, when working with like major explosives, uh, I think is extremely important. So yeah, it sacrifices the country, right? He sacrificed time with his family, sacrificed, a lot. So, but like sacrifices for his family again comes in that time. My dad worked at North Island, and on paper, it's like an hour drive to and from Temecula, but the traffic in California and on that 15 freeway, my dad would spend several hours driving to and from. So he'd work his shift where he would have to leave somewhere at like 3:30 in the morning and come home, be home by try and get home for my baseball practices at 5, and he'd be in traffic for hours and hours on end. So yeah, large sacrifices there. As soon as he
Mhm.
came home, no rest. You got this anxious, son who's ready to go out and practice some more baseball. I think about how tired I get sometimes. I can't imagine what that must
Yeah.
have been like for him. I'd see him on the couch sometimes, like with his eyes closed, and I'd have my glove, and I'd be like, "Well, why isn't he ready to come play right away?" He'd ask for like 20 minutes, and then he'd be back up and at him, throw me buckets of baseballs. You shoot. Even when I was in college, I'll never forget this. He worked at March Air Force Base, which is right next to UC Riverside, where I went to college. Um, I would practice, right? I'd go to school, I'd practice with the team. My dad, at that period of time, was working the nights. I would go onto the base because I had my military dependent ID card
Okay.
to see my dad. who would throw me batting practice in the airplane hangars on March Air Force Base. I don't know if that was allowed, but like, I mean, the dedication there is unmatched. So, like I said, he'll always be a cut above. He always found time for us. You know, yeah, countless memories of road trips. My dad taking me to games, travel ball games, scout games, with me every step of the way. I'll never forget he drove all the way up to Cal Berkeley from Temecula. It's 9 hours to watch my first collegiate baseball game. Made it for my debut. Like, yeah.
So when I think leadership and when I think examples and again, kind of just observing you from the press box distance or in the clubhouse or on the field, it's clear to me that the leadership characteristics, I'm sure you picked up some along the way within the realm of professional baseball and big league baseball, but it's clear to me that the roots in the ground of your leadership and example and your character are from your dad.
Without a doubt, I try and emulate, you know, in as many ways as possible who my dad is as a person. I think it's had a profound effect in my upbringing. And like I said, if I could be half the man that guy is, you know, I think I'm doing okay there.
You want to manage? I've talked about this a little bit on the air, and I've talked with a number of scouting, you know, friends of mine over the last couple of months. You know, you need certain qualities to be a big league manager, and generally, a lot of the really elite big league managers are catchers because they're involved in everything, every nuance of the game. But it does strike me, not all catchers can be big league managers. But when I see you and when I talk with you and when I hear you answer questions so detailed and thoroughly, it strikes me that if that is a career path down the road for you, I think Major League Baseball would have a spot for you. But is that something that you have allowed yourself to even enter your mind, or are you still 100% on the field? We'll worry about everything else whenever that day is next year, 5 years, 8 years down the road when you're done playing.
It's yeah. So I think just kind of a part of, you know, like thinking, right? It's like you think ahead. You think about like what could be next, and to be honest, I'm open to a lot of things for what the future could bring. Coaching is definitely one of those things that I'm open to. You know, what path in that coaching kind of journey I'm going to take, I'm not sure yet. But one thing's for certain, I am trying to gain as much information as possible to what would be the best route for me post baseball. And I'm trying to gain as much information as possible. It's like if I was going to do this, what would make like what are the skills and qualifications that like I have or need to develop to have an impact if I was to do this? Because like if I'm doing it to have an impact on the game.
Who are some of the managers or coaches along the way who have had that kind of impact on you, or you've absorbed things from them that might be part of your palette of coaching or managing down the road? Or I'm sure there are a couple that come to mind.
Yeah, so there are a couple coaches, right, that come to mind that have really had an impact, but also like I think it's important that every single manager that I've had, if I didn't take something or gain something from that experience, then I didn't get the most out of that experience. So to all the managers I've had out there, like I've gained something from every one of you, and I'm appreciative of you know what they taught me. But yeah, through that time, whether it was teammates, whether it was managers, like I said, there are always going to be certain traits at which I've found valuable to me in my career that have helped me that I hope to one day, you know, pass on to like the next generation of baseball players.
Who are some of your teammates who you've played with across the years who you feel might be a really good bench coach, a really good major league manager?
It's funny. You talk about bench coaches and managers. Like it's so funny. Like I don't think that the qualifications for either are very far apart. You see many bench coaches come on to be major league managers and do a great job. And like they are extended arms of each other, right? So, yeah, geez, I'm waiting for to see if Jeff Mathis is going to surface up as a manager one day because, like I'm sure his reputation is well known by now as a leader with every single team he's been on. So one day I think like seeing him as a major league manager is it like he'll have an impact on the game that way. I remember being in the dugout with Tyler Flowers and I mean extremely intelligent with like the calmest demeanor. I can see him, you know, being a good captain of a team. But man, there is a laundry list of teammates I have there that I can see really doing some good things in baseball as coaches if they wanted to.
Yeah, we've had a couple here with the Bulls. So Jared Sandberg was the manager for the Bulls. He then was the bench coach for Scott Service in Seattle, and Charlie Montoya right now is the bench coach for Pedro with the White Sox right now after his tenure as manager for Toronto. Just one base. I guess we got to get into one baseball related question as we begin to wind things down here with Rob Brantly. You've been around AAA the last year and a half to 2 years with the ABS and the challenge system. And I'm curious. I had a conversation a couple of years ago with Joe Hudson, who caught for the Bulls and just got up with the Mets last week, about if there is a role for the ABS in some capacity or a role for the challenge of balls and strikes in big league baseball, because this is AAA is kind of the petri dish. It's the lab. They're testing things out. Is it working? Is it not? What adjustments do they make? Joe was not really a fan because as a defensive oriented catcher, he felt like the ABS, if it did get to the big leagues, took away a lot of his value as a catcher in terms of receiving pitches, framing pitches, things like that. So I've heard from a lot of players that while it may be correcting some calls and issues here, that I'm not sure that there would be a majority of the union or even the umpires union that would authorize this at the big league level. But I'm curious that now that you've been immersed in this in the last couple of years, what are your thoughts about the ABS and the challenge system and how it's used? And is there a future in the big leagues for it?
First off, Joe Hudson, what a guy, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You talk about another version of Crash Davis right there. He's a special one. I really like Joe. And yeah, speaking on the ABS and the challenge system, I think they're even trying something new right now where the ABS is taking a break and they're using the full challenge system for the rest of the time. Like, is there a place in baseball for it? In a lot of ways, I think it's always for the fans to decide, right? Like in a way, because like without them, baseball, you know, isn't what it is today. But to me, as a catcher, it has absolutely like taken away one of those like fundamental strengths that we can have as catchers. Catching my first ABS game was underwhelming. Like I felt like I didn't have to do as much, you know, as far as like in the respect of receiving, because like it's valued so high as a catcher. It is like our most valued defensive metric, and it was stripped away. So that was very weird for me. I didn't like it. The challenge system, you know, kind of retains that value of receiving. It's just like I think about moments in baseball, the key moments in baseball that keeps fans on the edge of their seat, moments that they've waited all seasons for. You know, you could be, say, like in postseason, it could be in the World Series, where this pitcher is on the mound and he's about to make the biggest pitch of his life with 2 strikes and 2 outs, you know, 1-run game in the World Series with runners in scoring position. He makes the pitch. Umpire calls strike 3. I mean, the like electricity in the stadium going crazy. They just won the World Series. You know, catcher's running out only to find that the batter is challenged. Like, and just suck the air out of this, what could be the biggest moment, you know, in those guys' lives, you know. And, you know, whether the call is sustained or the call is overturned, if the call is sustained, like you stop this moment. Yeah, the result's the same, but you stopped it. And everybody is not going to be able to maybe achieve that, you know, same type of feeling after winning. It's moments like that that scare me, because it's moments like that that not just the players live for, but the fans live for. So like, there's a part of me that wants baseball to stay pure, a large part of me. I'm not going to be so resistant to change if it betters the game. But I just hope that they're careful with the way that which they change the game, because, you know, it could also do some damage.
Would it then, I guess the final follow-up, would it then force catchers to have to develop other skills? So let's say that their defensive abilities might have been their number one thing, and all of a sudden, if that's stripped away, as you just said, well, now I need to do something else to be recognized and get a chance to go up and be a big leaguer.
I see this as an interesting argument, right? Like, do they need to develop new skills? Well, if you weren't trying to develop yourself into the most well-rounded athlete that you could be, then you were kind of missing the boat to begin with, right? So it's like, yes, you're a good receiver, you know, but like, you're also still trying to be the best hitter you can be. You're still trying to be the best catch and throw guy you can be. Just the value of the player when it comes to their analytics changes. I've never really met a professional baseball player, at least, that like doesn't want to be the very best at every aspect of the game that they have to perform on the field. I think the value changes dramatically, you know, but I think that like we're always trying to be the best offensive player we can be. We're always trying to be the best catch and throw guy or blocker, game caller. But yeah, the analytical value changes in that regard.
Two final questions for you, Robin. First off, thank you for your time. And this question just popped into my head. It can be a really short answer. Who's the best catcher you've ever seen?
I don't have it in me to give a short answer. I'm just kidding.
Well, you're the one on the clock. If you have 5 more minutes, that's fantastic.
I'm sorry, I can be long-winded. Best catcher
Preaching
I've
the
ever
choir, my
seen.
man. Preaching the choir.
That's a hard one. Oh man, there's so many. God. Like growing up, right? We're all just kind of in awe of Pudge and what he was able to do as an athlete. You know, getting a chance to play during the era of Yadier Molina, awesome. I spoke to Jeff Mathis before, and like defensive, like from a defensive aspect, like he was so solid, and from a leadership perspective, so solid, and getting to know him, like what a solid human being. He'll always be one of my favorite catchers. I mean, those three are sticking out to me like right now, along the list of like many more really good catchers that I've got to work with. Trevino is doing incredible things, you know, with the way that he's able to lead a team and receive. Kyle Higashioka, grew up, you know, playing high school with him. I mean, just to kind of watch his journey and the catcher that he's become, and yeah, another all-star human being there. There's so many good ones. Yeah, I couldn't give you a short answer if I wanted to, Pat.
So you played with 12 different
could go on.
organizations. I mean, do you have jerseys from all these organizations?
I do. I do. And my wife really wants me to like do something cool with like all my memorabilia. I'm also really bad with like holding on to like my memorabilia. I like to share like to family members and things like that. Like if I go train at a facility, Like I like to find certain guys, like young amateurs, like maybe even little leaguers. If I see them and I kind of see the fire, you can kind of see that they're gonna want to go after this. I like to like give them a little something as just like a reminder that like, hey, if you keep working like this, like it's going to be a possibility. So I'll share some, throughout the off season. So like I don't have a lot of stuff, but like I do have the important stuff.
Mhm. And that's a great segue to my last. It's not even really a question, but I wanted to get on the record to the fans with a story that I briefly shared with you when the Bulls were in Gwinnett a couple of months ago. So the Bulls are playing a morning game, middle of the week against Gwinnett. It's raining. The game's supposed to start around 11 o'clock, and we have a pretty good idea by 9:30, 9:45. The game's probably going to get postponed. But the gates are open. Thousands of kids are in the stadium. They're playing SpongeBob SquarePants and Miley Cyrus and all these, kid-centric, kid-fun songs. And Rob Brantly is down in the right field bullpen at Coolray Field, catching some sides in the rain. And it's probably 10 o'clock. And I'm up in the booth and I'm just kind of getting my scorebook ready for a game if we do up in a play. And I looked down in the field and I saw you with your gear walking from the bullpen toward the first base dugout for the Bulls. And you stopped. And there's music playing and you started dancing on the field in your shin guards and in your mitt on your hand. And the kids right on the other side of the screen, I mean, hundreds of them are loving it. You're their Pied Piper. They cannot believe a professional baseball player is dancing to Miley Cyrus on the field in the rain at 10 in the morning to help entertain them while all the kids are singing and dancing as well. So I took a couple of pictures of it and I'm like, and again, I'd only known you for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and took a note of that and, started looking down, did more work. And then about 10 minutes later, I look back up and you're still there. And you're not dancing anymore, but you're signing autographs and taking pictures with these kids. And I'm like, that's really cool. So I go back to my work 10, 15 minutes later. I look down the field. You're no longer there. I'm like, okay, well, it's 10:30, 10:40. He's probably in the clubhouse getting ready if we play or not. But then I look up into the crowd and the gate was open and you're in the middle of 50, 60, 70 kids, pictures, autographs, I'm guessing answering questions. I'm guessing you're high-fiving everybody. It was extraordinary to me. So I kind of back-timed it. You were in that group of kids entertaining, singing, signing, doing pictures for almost an hour I'm guessing it was a Wednesday morning in Gwinnett. And if and you weren't even a Gwinnett player, you were with the opposing team. So it wasn't like they were coming out and they needed to see somebody in a striper uniform. But it was Rob Brantly amongst hundreds of kids, just being a ball player, just being, I guess, remembering what it was like to be an 8-year-old in the stands, watching a player and how impactful it would be to meet a guy in uniform who plays the game, and just having fun and channeling your fatherhood. So I want to make sure that fans realize that's the kind of character and the person that Rob Brantly is. And I remember, and I want to get your thoughts on that day and some others, because I sent out in social media a couple of those pictures that I took of you and Gwinnett that morning, and there was a response from somebody with social media with the Toledo Mudhens, and they didn't even write anything in the response. They just sent a picture of you on the concourse at Fifth Third Field during a rain delay, basically doing the same thing years earlier. So when you hear these stories and when you see these people observing, you're not doing it for any kind of praise. You're just doing it because it's a cool and fun, the right thing to do. How does that make you feel?
Well, I like, as far as like how I feel like when I go out and get to experience those things with the fans, I think that a perfect circle back into when this podcast started. Right, this game pulls you in, and everybody there that buys a ticket, and comes to the game, like they are feeling that pulse, right? They're feeling that connection to the game, and it's like, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it pours, right? So in a literal aspect, like it was pouring on those days. And they came to the ballpark and they weren't going to get to see the game, that they anticipated, especially as kids. But no, I just have an appreciation for the people that will buy the ticket, come to the game just to watch us do the things that we love to do because they love it also. So it's more of just like a reverence, I guess, to that love for the game and that shared love for the game. And yeah, I feel more like an appreciation for them, and it's easy in that respect.
Mhm. Did somebody do that for you when you were a little kid?
I've had times where like I've approached athletes, approached professional athletes, and they, signed a ball for me, and I remember how special it was. Just to see the autograph and to feel like you almost feel like the weight of like, when you do it, like this person did something special. So that's why this name gets to go on this baseball, and like I said, if you see that somebody else was able to do something extra, right, to go for the thing that they dreamed about doing, that it isn't just like a pipe dream, like, oh, that would have been cool if this ended up like, no, it can, if you're actionable about it, if it's something you want, something you're passionate about, and you go for it, it's possible.
Well, Rob, first up, I'm really terrible at telling time. And I know when the podcast began, I said, yeah, 20, 30 minutes, we'll be in and out. Much, much longer than that. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing all these wonderful stories and memories. And the Durham Bulls are proud to have you as part of our organization.
I'm very, very honored to be a part of this organization. I'm pumped that we got to meet and we got to be friends. And I've enjoyed my experience with the city of Durham, with the fans so much. And I appreciate them embracing me and my family this season.
All right. Hey, best of luck. We'll see you at the ballpark later today.
All right. I'll see you later, Pat.
All right. So that is this week's edition of the Durham Bulls podcast. Rob Brantly of the Durham Bulls joining us. And a reminder, please subscribe if you can. Apple and Spotify for the audio version. YouTube TV, Durham Bulls TV on YouTube is our channel. You can watch this when it drops and watch it in perpetuity as it's archived on YouTube. So that's going to wrap things up. So for Jatovian McDuffie, our post-production whiz, for Rob Brantly and everyone involved with the Durham Bulls podcast, I'm Patrick Kiedis. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next week on the Durham Bulls podcast.